Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Emily Hiles, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Squadron Leader David Elliott. This evening, we warmly welcome the family of Pilot Officer Bernard Francis Lee, whose story will be told shortly. We're also honoured to acknowledge Mr. Patrice Caine, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer, Thales Group. Monsieur Pierre-André Imbert, Ambassador of France to Australia. Mr. Daniel Kieran, recipient of the Victoria Cross for Australia and member of the Council of the Australian War Memorial and their accompanying delegations. We also warmly welcome Group Captain retired Bruce Chandler, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family, visitors to the memorial, and students on behalf of Prince Alfred College, Kent Town, South Australia. Australia's Federation Guard is the tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catafalque party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catapult party, attention! Catapult party, reset, arms!
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are one and free. With golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains, then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Catapult party, shoulder, arms! Catapult party, order, arms!
Students, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where family and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament. Flowers of the forest, wreaths and floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Pilot Officer Bernard Francis Lee. Bernard Lee was born on the 1st of April 1920 in Brisbane. Known as Bernie, he was the younger of two children born to Frank and Hannah Lee. Bernie remained in Brisbane throughout his childhood, growing up alongside his sister Gwenda. He attended St Joseph's College before entering the public service in the Public Curator's Office in Brisbane. Lee joined the 5th Battery of the Royal Australian Artillery in August 1940, enlisting in the Citizens Military Force in mid-1941. Lee enlisted for service in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 12th of October 1941 at No. 3 Recruiting Centre in Brisbane. Initially mustered as aircrew, he was sent to No. 3 Initial Training School in Sandgate, Brisbane. At the end of November, Lee remustered as a pilot and in late January 1942 was promoted to the rank of leading air craftsman. Having completed initial training at Sandgate, he spent the first half of 1942 completing his elementary, service and advanced pilot training at Archfield, Narroming and Diniliquin. Lee was awarded his flying badge on the 23rd of June 1942. After completing his training, Lee was promoted to temporary sergeant and returned to Brisbane to prepare for overseas service. Lee arrived in the United Kingdom on the 10th of April 1943 and spent the next 5 months moving between receiving and personnel stations. During this period, he was promoted to the rank of temporary flight sergeant. Lee was stationed at RAF Brunton in Northumberland, England from mid-September 1943 before enjoying 2 months of paid personal leave. After returning from leave, he was posted to No. 247 Squadron, which flew single-seater Hurricanes and Typhoons on nighttime defensive patrols against Luftwaffe aerodromes in northern France. On the 8th of May 1944, Lee's aircraft was involved in an air accident while the squadron was flying in practice formation. A flying officer from the squadron was killed in an air collision while Lee was forced to make an emergency landing on the aerodrome. Temporarily hospitalised, suffering from shock, Lee soon returned to his squadron and resumed his role in night and daytime attacks on transport systems and weapons emplacements in northern France. In late June, the squadron moved to Normandy to assist in the upcoming Allied drive through France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and into Germany. Lee was recommended for a commission in mid-1944 and was commissioned as a pilot officer on the 11th of July 1944. On the 28th of September 1944, Lee was one of 10 members of 247 Squadron to provide support for ground forces attacking the woods north of Vest in the Netherlands. The airmen, all flying Typhoons, left the airfield at Eindhoven at 10:45 a.m. Although most aircraft returned within the hour, Bernie's Typhoon failed to return. Initially listed as missing, it was later determined that his aircraft had crashed near Boeksteel in Holland. Pilot Officer Bernard Francis Lee was later declared to have been killed in air operations on the morning of the 28th of September 1944. He was 24 years old. In the years following his death, Lee's family and friends posted commemorative notices in the local newspapers each September. One such notice inserted by his grieving parents and sister read, "We have loved him in life, let us not forget him in death." Bernie's remains were buried in Eindhoven General Cemetery in the Netherlands. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour on my left among almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Pilot Officer Bernard Francis Lee, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
Catafalque Party, shoulder, arms.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Catafalque Party, present, arms. Catafalque Party, shoulder, arms.
Lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Catafalque Party, inwards, turn. Catafalque Party, quick, march.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of our director, staff and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the Memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.